So, namaskaram, everyone. Today, I'm going to be taking you on a journey through the language of Malayalam, and I'll share a bit of my experiences learning the language, and I'll go over a few things that I found really interesting and unique about Malayalam, and we can even learn some beginner words and some phrases, and at the end, I'll have some resources for you guys if you want to do any further study. So, Swagatham, welcome. Together, we're going to look at Malayalam. So we're going to talk about the background of Malayalam. We're going to look over its writing system. Malayalam has an abugida, which is really interesting. And also it has features of agglutination that I find really neat. And then, of course, Malayalam has a lot of media to go with it. So you can be exposed to the language and the culture around the language and Kerala itself. So about me, Elikutty, I'm Eliza, and I've been working in education since 2009. And I've worked in South Korea, the UAE, Vietnam, India, and the US. So I've been around a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages. And I've been working as an ESL teacher, but I've also just been dabbling and learning other languages as well. So English is my mother tongue. I also speak Spanish and Malayalam to an intermediate level, and I dabble in Serbian, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese, and whatever else I find interesting at the time. I'm currently in Hanoi, Vietnam. I've been working here since 2020, and so I'm joining you from cold, chilly Vietnam this evening. So I hope everyone is well. So let's jump in. So Malayalam is one of the 22 official languages of India, and it is found in the state of Kerala. So if you look at this map of India, you'll see a little green space, that's Kerala, and it's home to 40 million speakers of Malayalam. And a few other languages are spoken in Kerala, but the most dominant language is Malayalam. It's been influenced by a lot of languages, including Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian, but it's a Dravidian language. So it shares its roots with Tamil, it shares its roots with Kannada and Telugu. And so you'll have a lot of interesting features that are similar to those other South Indian languages. So Malayalam has an abugida system. So this means that there are aksharangal, which we would think of as consonants, and there are also vowels that attach to these consonants. So if you look here on the right, you'll see that these are the consonants, and Malayalam is special in the fact that it has a lot of retroflex sounds. So in English, we would say la, but in Malayalam, there's a la and a retroflex ra, or na and a retroflex na. And this means that your tongue will go back and touch the roof of your mouth as you're producing these sounds. One really special sound is here toward the bottom. You'll see la, and then you'll see the retroflex ra. This is a really interesting sound. When I'm teaching others how to say it, I kind of think of it like an American R, but then you bring your tongue further back. So it becomes ra, ra. So for example, the word for rain is mara, mara. If you're familiar with other Indian languages, you'll notice that this follows a similar order as the other Indian languages. So this is what we have here. We also have aspirated and non-aspirated sounds. So here in the first row, we have ga, which is not aspirated, and then ka, that is aspirated. Ga, ka, and then nga. And then this repeats aspirated, non-aspirated, and aspirated cha, 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 nya. And then these are retroflex, ta, ta, da, da, na. Then these are in the front, ta, ta, da, ta, na. Pa, pa, ba, pa, ma. And then these last ones are a bit different. They follow a different order. So ya, ra, la, va. And then we have two fricatives. We have sha and then a retroflex sha. So it's the same sha, but again, it's a retroflex sha. Then saha, retroflex ra, retroflex ra. And then the last ra is like a trill, ra. So some of these sounds you might be familiar with in other languages. Some of these are new for me when I was studying Malayalam. The retroflexes were very interesting and different for me. All right. Now, when we want to add vowels, we have what's called independent vowels and dependent vowels. So the vowels themselves have their own shape, and once they're attached to a consonant, they take a different shape. So you can see here, is considered the default vowel. It's the inherent vowel. So anytime you see an aksharangal by itself, you can just assume it has ka, ga, na, like we just went over. But if we see these other symbols, these indicate a vowel, and they can come on the right side, they can come on the left side, and they can come on both sides. So example, if we take a letter ka, this is with just the inherent ka, na, va. But if we want to make it a long sound, it would be ka, na, va. Here's another example with e and e. Si, ti, mi, ni, and si, ti, mi, ni. So these aksharangal are for vowels, and they'll move around the consonant. Now, if we want to have a consonant without a vowel, we need to use what's called a chandrakala, and that's this mark here. Chandra means moon, so chandrakala means moon mark. And what this does is it either has a schwa sound or it deletes the vowel sound. So with Malayalam, we can put two aksharangal together to make a new one. So this first one is n plus ta is nta. N plus ta is nda. N plus n is a double na. N plus ma is ma. So again, this chandrakala means that we remove the vowel and you can attach it to other sounds. And then we have these chilus, which are final consonants. So these would just be the consonant sound, and it would be an end sound. So you have the retroflex n, and retroflex Now, a lot of people think, should I study the alphabet, or should I just learn how to read or write? Or I'm sorry, just learn to listen and speak. For me, my advice is that if you want to communicate, I think it's important to learn the aksharangal so that you can know the difference in sounds. Because if you write it out in English, the word P-A-L-L-I, it could be two different words in Malayalam. Pali with the front L means lizard, but barley with the retroflex L means church. So I think that it's really helpful to learn the alphabet, but don't also feel like you need to memorize it before you jump into the language. Some people really enjoy learning scripts. This is a fun script to learn if you're into that. So here we have some beginner phrases. They might be similar to other Indian languages that you might have studied. So for greetings, there's namaskaram, namaskaram. In Malayalam, you can also use namaste. And then how are you is sugamana, sugamana. So here we have sugam, which if you're familiar with Sanskrit, it's like sukha, where something is positive, it's health, it's goodness. So are you well? Sukamana. All right. And if we want to ask, what is your name? The word for name is pere, pere endarne, pere endarne. So endarne, what is, and pere is name. So if you notice, Malayalam is a verb ending language. So you have the object and then the verb. Pere endarne, what is your name? Where is it? Every day. This is a retroflex ta. Every day yarne. Every day yarne. How much is it? Etra is how much. Etra yarne. Etra yarne. How much is it? Welcome. Swagatham. As in, welcome to Kerala. Malayalathilekku Swagatham. Welcome to class. Class-lekku Swagatham. If you like something, enikku ishtamarne. Enikku ishtamarne. So ishtam is for like. To say yes, we can say ade. Ade. So I can say, let's see, ni നിങ്ങൾ polyglot ആണോ? Are you a polyglot? അതെ, ഞാൻ polyglot ആണ്. I am a polyglot. Right? When you want to say okay, like no problem, okay, that's sheri, sheri. And to see you later, yes, the head bobble is very is a very natural thing. Yeah, you want to shake your head a little bit. Ah, sheri, apu sheri. Okay. All right. And then last, see you later. Pinne karnam. Pinne karnam. Now notice this na is also retroflex. So pinne karnam. Karnam. So it's like see you later. So here's what it looks like in Malayalam script itself. So I'll go through the words and show you. So we have namaskaram. Namaskaram. So you can see here, this is the long ah. Namaskaram. Namaskaram. All right. Sukamarno. Sukamarno. So see how this na has before and after. This is how we make a long O sound. So vowels can come on both sides of the consonant. Here we have pere. Notice the pere has the chandrakala that we talked about. So it's not pera, it's pere. It's not a u, it's like a schwa. Pere. Pere endarne. All right. Evideyane. Etriyane. Swagatham. So this special sign is a semi-vowel. It's called a ligature. And so here it's like a wa, va. So this is swa, swa. It's used in a lot of Sanskrit origin words, like svayam for self. All right. Enike ishtamane. Enike ishtamane. Ade, shari, and binnekarnam. Now, something I like about Malayalam that I find interesting and I like telling other people about is agglutination, because this is the first language I've studied that has this kind of feature. I know it's common in other languages, but previously I had studied Spanish, Japanese, Vietnamese, Korean. So this is the first language where I encountered agglutination, and it makes it challenging, but it also makes it really fun, because once you know how to do it, you can give a very precise meaning with one like specific word. So I'm going to show you an example of how agglutination works in Malayalam. So the word for city in Malayalam is nagaram, nagaram. And Malayalam also has cases. So if you've studied maybe some European languages like German, the cases in German are very similar to the cases in Malayalam. So here, this is the locative case, which means we're talking about a location. So nagaratil, nagaratil. But now we're talking about specifically to the city. So Nagarathilekku. So this lake, it means toward. And then now we want to turn it from this into an adjective form. So we have to add the ula ending. This is the retroflex double ra. So Nagarathilekkulla. So what happens is, if in English we would say a journey to the city, but in Malayalam it would be Nagarathilekkulla yatra. Just 2 words for this very specific thing. So it's exciting, but it's also a mouthful when you're trying to make sentences, because it's very common for me to start speaking and then I'll be like, wait, I left out something. Let me go back. Okay, let me add that part. Oh, wait, let me go back. So in mind that the grammar is a bit reversed compared to English. You know, you're thinking forwards and backwards, but it is a lot of fun, and I do like this. So Malayalam has a very rich media, and so there's a lot of movies, both old and new, that are really relevant to social issues, that are really interesting. A lot of people are introduced to Indian cinema through Bollywood, but that's like the Hindi cinema house. This is the Malayalam cinema house, referred to as Mollywood. So Bollywood has a lot of real life stories, slice of life stories, imagined retellings of older stories. So on the left, we have Oru Vadakan Viragata. This is an older movie with Mammootty, and it takes basically someone who was considered a villain in folkloric mythology, and they try to spin it like, what if he wasn't actually the villain? What if he was actually framed? Or what if he was done wrong? And it's a really beautiful movie and done well culturally. Something more recent is The Great Indian Kitchen. This was streamed, I think, during 2021. And it was really great because it was a poignant look at gender equality and how domestic labor is and how, women are in the kitchen and they're preparing things. And it's done in such a way where it's just a beautiful movie, and you can find it online, and it's a really great look into some of the patriarchal structures that still exist in some communities. And then a personal favorite of mine is Ima Yao, and this is like a satirical movie. It's like a dark comedy, and it's all about things around death and dying and family rights and societal expectations. So that's really interesting. But there's tons and tons of really great movies. You can find a lot of them on YouTube. You can find them with subtitles. And now with streaming platforms, you can jump in and try them out. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in the language, do check out the cinema, and that might really get you hooked into the culture. Also, there's some well-known authors from the Malayalam sphere, and their works are translated also into English. So if you want to be exposed to some more stories or the landscape, but you're not quite picking up the language yet, you can still check it out through these texts. So the first one is Goat Days, which is being adapted into a movie. It's basically the story of a Gulf Malayali. So basically someone who leaves Kerala to go work in the Middle East, which is a very, very common thing. And this person gets tricked by their sponsor and is subjected to living in the Saudi desert as a goat herd. So really interesting story there, and it's based on a true story. Then you have The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, excellent book that looks at like the communities within Kerala, and it looks on things like forbidden love and caste and a lot of other interesting things. And it paints a really vivid picture of life in rural Kerala. And then the third one is a more recent book that's been gone very mainstream. It's been on NPR, as you can see, it's on Oprah's Book Club. And it's a generational novel. I have not finished reading this yet, but everyone who's read this, whether they're from Kerala or not, loves it. It's a multi-generational story about a Christian family in Kerala, and there's like a curse where a person dies by drowning in every generation. So these are some titles that you might want to look into, and maybe it'll inspire you to get more involved in the language and learn more about the culture. And some notes about Kerala culture. So again, Kerala is in the southern part of India. So it's very warm and tropical year round. It's currently, oh my goodness, I think it's like 34, 35 degrees and steamy. My in-laws are based there. And they're known for their culinary traditions, a lot of seafood. They eat beef. They have a lot of chaya snacks. They have a feast, a vegetarian feast called Sadhya, which has like a variety of foods on a banana leaf. They have a lot of festivals like the Trishur Puram that you see here with all the elephants in front of the temples in Trishur. This has been documented as one of the largest gatherings like all throughout the state, or even, South India. And they're also known for their backwaters. And interestingly, they are the currently only democratically elected communist government, which is interesting. The Communist Party started in the 1950s in Kerala. And so they have several political parties, but currently the ruling party in Kerala is the Communist Party. So there's a lot of interesting ties with the communist background there. So now I'm going to open up the floor for questions. If you want to practice something, if you want to look more into detail, I've got a few demo lessons we have time to go through if you'd like to have a demo lesson, or if there's anything specifically you'd like to know.
How would I introduce myself?
Okay, yes, that's a good one. So here, namaskara is the greeting, and then you would say Nyan, Nyan, Eliza, or your name, Arne, Arne. I can actually open up one of my demo lessons. So I personally do beginner lessons on my Discord server every Monday, and I've created a curriculum of lessons that people can either self-study or they can join in and see. So this is a peek into what one of my lessons would look like. All right, so this would be the very first lesson in the series. So we go over the verb arne, which is to be, and some subject pronouns and introductions, and then a little bit of pronunciation, because I feel like even though learning the Aksharangal, the alphabet system, is important, it's more important to be able to communicate as early as possible from my point of view. So a lot of my students really appreciate that. So here we have a dialogue where you can see what's happening. And I give the dialogue here. So, "Oru kapi taramo?" And then Chertan asks, "Peren darne?" "Eliza." "Lisa?" "Alla, Eliza." "Apposheri." And so from here, we can kind of guess like what the conversation is about. So Eliza is here, and what is she probably doing? She's asking for something. Okay, yes, so she's asking for a coffee. Can you give me a coffee, please? And then the person asks, "Peren dine." So what does Starbucks always ask for when you order a coffee?
And obviously, as Starbucks, they don't understand your name because your name is
Exactly, exactly,
even if
exactly. So
you're
he's
John or like Emma, they never heard this name, right?
exactly, exactly. So yeah, Peren dine. What's your name? Eliza, Lisa, Allah, Eliza. So from this context, we know that Allah means
No.
no, it's not Lisa, it's Eliza. Ah, Apposheri. Okay, then. Apposheri, which means
Oh.
okay, then. Yeah, like okay, then. Appo means later or then, and sheri means okay. Okay, then. Apposheri. Okay. All right. And then this is the follow-up conversation. Ningle Amanda Arno. Allah, nyan Eliza Arne. Ayyo, sorry, Eliza, Ningaludi Kape. Nanni. All right, so again, we get introduced to the question form. Ningle Amanda Arno. Are you Amanda? So again, Arne, the verb is at the end of the sentence. So when it's in the question form, see how it changes. Arno. And then the statement. Arne. Allah. Nyan Eliza Arne. No, I'm Eliza. Ayo, sorry. Eliza. Ningalude kapi. Your coffee. Nanni. Nanni is thank you. But most Malayalis never say nanni, they just say thanks. There's something I've learned like studying other languages. Things like I'm sorry, excuse me, and thank you are never actually said. And they just use the English word instead. Because if I would say nanni in Malayalam, it would be because someone did something so nice and so amazing. So it's like kind of reserved for, it seems as a very formal thing to say. So for example, something also that's interesting about Malayalam is that there is a hierarchy of politeness when referring to other people. So for example, we have two words here. There's ni, which is the informal you, and then ningal, which is the formal you, but there's also words like ang and tangal, which are like even more polite and not used in daily speech. Like if I met the Chief Minister of Kerala, I would need to say Tangal, because this is like a very polite, very formal way of talking to someone. Also, when you talk to people who have a title or if they have a relationship to you, for example, your mom or dad, you would never refer to your father as ni or dingle. You would actually just refer to them in the third person. So when I ask my mother-in-law, what did you do today? I would say, Amma in the cheda. Even though I'm speaking directly to my mother-in-law, I'm still calling her Amma and asking Amma in the Cheda, what did Amma do? Just to show this politeness. And it's the same with he and she. Like the default words for he and she you'll learn in the textbook is oven and avel. But you'll learn very quickly that you actually don't use these with people you want to show respect to. One time I was having dinner with another Malayali and I was telling her about my husband and I said oven and she's like, "Oh, don't call your husband Oven." Like, oh, well, what should I call him? And she's like, "You can call him Keyton, which means big brother." And I'm like, "But what if I'm older than him?" And she's like, "I don't know, just say Arjun." Like, don't just say Oven. That's so disrespectful. So like these things. And again, you end up speaking about someone using their name or their title instead of using the pronoun because it does have that layer. Yes. Yeah. It's just like Japanese. I think Japanese is really, really polite in that way. But yes, Malayalam is like that to an extent too. So yeah, here on the screen, I'm sharing the conjugation of the verb arne. And one thing I like about Malayalam is that the conjugation doesn't change depending on the subject. So whether it's I, you, he, she, we, they, the verb is always going to be the same. So, you know, English, it's like he is, we are. In Malayalam, it would just be arne. It would stay the same. And here what you see is the positive, negative, and question forms. And then you can also see how agglutination works in this last example with end, meaning what, end, endarne, what is. It's interesting doing subject, object, verb, because I've been working with Malayalam so much, and then I wanted to start getting back into Spanish because I used to be like at a B2, and then I haven't used it in a while. And then I found when I was speaking in Spanish, I was still putting my verb in the wrong part of the sentence. And yes, I'm sure you guys know, juggling different languages, it can happen like that. You're like, no. Like if you're studying European languages or languages with similar word order, it's okay. But because I'm working with two very distinct languages, it gets mixed up. There is not grammatical gender in Malayalam. There is to an extent in Tamil. So that's something that Malayalam got rid of. Malayalam doesn't have a lot of gendered words in general. There are few, for example, when you're describing people, you can say Karin for male or Kari for female. So Sundari is a beautiful woman, Sundaren is a beautiful man, but these gendered words are not very common. And in Tamil, the verb will change depending on the gender of the person. So there's that as well, but it's not like Spanish where nouns have gender and things like that. It's not to that extent. So yeah, this word order also stays the same whether it's a question or a response, which I really like, because as a teacher of English, I always feel like really frustrated for my students when they learn a structure and then they're like, okay, now we have to change the words around when we want to ask a question. And, you know, for this, it's quite straightforward in that way. You can change the word order for emphasis. For example, you could put the subject at the end for emphasis, but in the standard, like how you learn it from a book, it's going to be like this. All right, and then we have a bit of time, so I'm going to show you the different N sounds in Malayalam. Yes, the name Malayalam is a palindrome. It's the only language that I know of that is. So that's really cool. And Malayalam also has, it's technically not, even though it is, because it's two different L sounds. It's the front and the retroflex. So Malayalam, it's a retroflex ra, which is really cool. So when I teach the different L sounds, I use the Malayalam to help practice that. So we have the different N sounds here. So the first N is what a lot of us are used to, is right here in the front of our mouth, na. So namaskaram, ni, ningal, like this. And this is a retroflex na. Na. So your tongue will go back and touch the soft part on the roof of your na. Na. And a lot of sounds are made back here. We have na, we have ra, we have ra, we have sha. So Tamil, Malayalam, they have these retroflex sounds that are really fun because you'll get a long word that has both the front N and the back N, or the front L and the back L. So you're doing a lot of gymnastics in your mouth. My husband used to tell me, make your mouth bigger when you speak Malayalam, then it'll be easier for you to pronounce everything. And he's a bit right, at least in the beginning. So here, when we say to be, arne, it's the retroflex na. Na. It's not ane, arne, arne. And for me, I always hear like an emphatic ra somewhere in there. So that's how I hear it. Some other people have said the same. So if that helps you remember it, then that's great. And then we have a nia, which is like the Spanish N with the tilde. So nia. So when we say I, we're saying nyan, nyan. So your tongue will come out just a bit by the teeth. Nyan, 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 Eliza. Okay. So I'm not able to look up the answer key, so I'm just going to pronounce all these words for you. So the first one is pani, pani, parni, parni. So pani means fever, pani, pani. And parni means work. So if you have work to do, enakku pani undu, pani. But you should also be careful because if you say pani with a double na, that means pig and it's an insult. So of course, isn't it how it always is when you're learning a new language? You're like, oh, I learned this thing. And then you say something extremely offensive and then everyone's just like, okay. So yeah, pani and pani. Pani, pani. Work fever makes sense to me. Yes. Yes. How can I say it? Enakku panni aayathukondu panni kitti. So because I have work, I have a fever. All right. The next one is ana, which means elephant. And if you want to look at that and think of it like a little elephant with a trunk, it's a ana, it's an elephant. Elephants are very important in Kerala. It's the state animal and they're very, very respected. Like wild elephants have names and people like will go on Facebook and update specific elephants and where they are. And in Malayalam, there's a word komban, and komban means like someone who eats something. So like Ari komban is like rice eater, or Para komban is like banana eater. So people will go online and say, oh, we saw Ari komban. He was doing this at this place. So like, and I joke that in Kerala, it's keeping up with the kombans instead of the Kardashians. So, all right. So we have Anna and Arne. Anna, Arne. So elephant and am. All right. Vernam, Vernam. This is want. Vanam means rocket. Manam means mind, manam. And manam means smell. Manam, manam. And then we have marne and man. Marne doesn't mean anything. It's just a nonsense word that I made. And man means deer, like the creature, the animal, deer. So those are the. So now we have a conversation practice. So you can look here. I have a word box. So hello, what's your name? Namaskaram. Perendaine. Nyan. Perendaine. Nyan. Now here's a phrase that I really like. When you say nice to meet you, you say kandathil sandosham. So kandathil means in seeing. So I is kanne. Karnam, to see. Kandathil, in seeing. Sandosham, happiness. Sandosham, same in Sanskrit. Sandosham. So in seeing you, I am happy, which is really nice to think about. And then enikyam, me too. Me too. Enikyam, me too. So I'm on Instagram and YouTube with Learn Malayalam with Elikutty. Elikutty is a pun. My name's Eliza. Eli in Malayalam means rat. So Elikutty means little rat. Yes, it's very cute, I promise. So Elikutty, and that's why you have the mouse there. I also am partnered with Ling. So they have, their app has a lot of languages, including Thai and other languages from Asia. It's basically all the languages you wish was on Duolingo, but it's not. It's on Ling. Really great. And then to the right, I have a lot of accounts through Instagram that are great. Fluent in Malayalam. She's on YouTube as well. She's been making content longer than I have, and she's got some really great stuff. And then these others are either teachers or providers of resources. So it doesn't have as much resources as, say, Hindi, but we're working on it. And I'm actually working on creating some course books. I was signed with a children's publishing group to do a children's book for the alphabets, starting with the vowels. And I'm hoping to partner with another publisher to do a course book. So that's all for me. So apoelam parnadu pole, that's all to be said for now. And if you have any other further questions, comments, you can reach out to me here, or you can find me on Instagram